In early 2026, the United States launched one of the most controversial military operations in the Western Hemisphere in decades. What began as escalating tensions over drugs, oil, and regional influence culminated in a dramatic strike on Venezuela, an event that has reshaped geopolitics in the Americas. Venezuela, a nation with the world's largest proven oil reserves, has faced years of political turmoil, economic collapse, and international sanctions. The U.S. government repeatedly accused Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro's regime of corruption, human rights abuses, and being complicit in narcotics trafficking to the United States. Against this backdrop, the Trump administration cited both counter-narcotics and national security concerns as justification for a military buildup in the Caribbean and Gulf of Venezuela. In late 2025, the United States began deploying naval and military assets to the Caribbean under an initiative known as Operation Southern Spear. U.S. naval forces intercepted multiple suspected oil tankers linked to Venezuela and sanctioned by Washington, drawing fierce condemnation from Caracas, which branded the actions as piracy and violations of international law. On January 3, 2026, the U.S. military launched Operation Absolute Resolve, a coordinated strike involving air, land, and special operations forces aimed at capturing Nicolas Maduro and his inner circle. Approximately around 2 a.m., explosions were reported in and around Caracas as U.S. forces hit key military installations and air defenses. Maduro and his wife, Celia Flores, were apprehended and transported to New York to face charges tied to narcotics and organized crime. The operation resulted in significant loss of life. Venezuelan and Cuban security personnel were among those killed or wounded, and several U.S. service members sustained injuries during the mission. The conflicting casualty reports highlight the complexity of military actions in densely populated urban environments, where distinguishing between combatants and civilians is often difficult. The intervention sparked fierce debate inside and outside the United States. Critics argued that the strike violated international law, undermined Venezuelan sovereignty, and set a dangerous precedent for unilateral military action. Prominent human rights and legal experts questioned whether the U.S. president had authority to undertake such a mission without congressional approval. American public opinion was deeply divided. Early polling showed that only about one-third of U.S. adults supported the military strike, while many expressed concern about long-term involvement in Venezuela and the potential geopolitical ramifications. Support tended to break along partisan lines, with more Republicans expressing approval compared to Democrats and independents. Globally, reactions ranged from cautious support to outright condemnation. Several Latin American leaders condemned the action as a breach of sovereignty, while the United Nations expressed alarm over the use of force. Major powers, including China, publicly criticized the U.S. strikes as destabilizing and contrary to international norms. Beyond counter-narcotics rhetoric, analysts pointed to strategic motives tied to energy and global influence. Venezuela's vast oil reserves, long underproduced due to sanctions and infrastructure decay, represent a significant economic prize. The U.S. presence and control over Venezuelan resources have raised concerns about environmental impacts, market shifts, and the balance of power in the Western Hemisphere. The long-term effects of the U.S. intervention remain uncertain. Venezuela's political landscape is in flux, regional alliances are shifting, and the precedent of capturing a sitting president by foreign forces has alarmed governments worldwide. As reconstruction and governance questions loom, the world watches how this bold strategy will impact the future of Venezuelan society and U.S. foreign policy. What began as a campaign against drugs and corruption has become a defining moment in early 21st century geopolitics. Challenging norms of sovereignty, reshaping regional power dynamics, and raising profound ethical and legal questions about the use of force in international relations. From oil and geopolitics to human lives and international law, the intervention in Venezuela exposes the complex reality behind modern warfare. As nations justify force in the name of security and stability, the line between protection and domination becomes increasingly blurred. The question now is not just what happened in Venezuela, but what this moment signals for the future of global power and accountability.